Okay, January 26th, 2022. This is the second attempt now. We had a leak, puddling of water under our loofah archway. So we took it down. There's one of the loofahs, but it was the one that we also had tomatoes growing on. So we had a leak pulling water. We went ahead and fixed it. This was probably last week. Did not get video of it. But this piece right here, the one we put on last time, was leaking. So it led to, over the course of the week or so, another leak. Now, it wasn't leaking when we put it on, but what happened was we waited to put the soil back. This over here, I don't know how well you can see it. It's a big mound of soil. It was already dried out. So we have clay, so it was big chunks of clay. And apparently there were too many air pockets because it was putting pressure on this to where it was sagging down and it created a leak. It took us a while to figure that out. We had to dig up way more than last time because there was way more saturation in the ground. But in doing that, what we figured out after applying pressure to right here is there was a lot of water shooting out. So we went ahead and replaced the old piece like this with a new one, and taking extra caution this time, because so long as it was in line, it was perfectly fine. But we took extra caution this time, so now we're backfilling with the wet soil, which we're going to go ahead and finish doing by hand just to give it a good support underneath. Reinforcing with a couple of rocks probably, just to keep the soil in place and to keep it from sagging too much, so that way we do not create the same problem. This is a simply fairly easy problem. Most people would probably run to call the plumber. But I'm glad we took the time to do this ourselves, so we learn a little bit about plumbing. What we ended up doing, like I said, we noticed the kids actually noticed first the leak in the yard, the pooling, that water down there, it was pooling, but on the surface area. And we went and got 1.5-inch PVC pipe from our local hardware store and a 1.5-inch sleeve. We had to Dremel the interior so we could, actually no, we didn't do that for this piece. That was what we were going to do for that piece. So we just got the regular sleeve attachment. For this piece we had to cut because it was a leak. Well, the pipe got cut kind of. We had to extend the pipe. So there was only one little tiny leak, but we went ahead and here's this. So that's what it looks like in the inside. We went ahead and measured it up to the pipe, drew lines, cut exactly that size out, and then we just fixed the, it has these little rings, gaskets, and this. You put this on the PVC first, followed by this on each side, and then you slide them back the PVC, put this pipe piece in the middle, and I mean, it's really self-explanatory, and then you screw the caps on at the end. So that's what we did with this one, and as you can see, we're putting pressure on it, and there's no leaking this time. But just to take further precautions, we're going to backfill and get rid of that leak. So not sure if that was interesting to anybody, but that's what's happening today. Again, this is the second go round. At least we've learned something the first time. Make sure that our backfill is properly saturated underneath so there is no sagging. Yeah, so what did the piece was like 15 bucks? Mm-hmm. And then that little sleeve was like 60 cents. And then the cement, if you don't already have some, that's only like 5 or 6 bucks. So it really isn't that expensive of a fix, just some time. And yeah, so that's what we're going to get to it now, backfilling. Okay, so real quick, what I was saying earlier about what we just did over there. We went to Home Depot and just got a long 10-foot piece of the 1.5-inch pipe. We didn't need that much, but we're extra like that, and I can always store this for the next time something like this happens. We already had these, but you'll need a pair of PVC pipe cutters, or really you don't. You can likely cut it with just like a regular serrated knife, knowing that your knife will probably get dull afterwards, or if you have a regular handsaw of any kind. So the first step was, I'm not going to do exact measurements, I'm just going to do a demo since I didn't actually take the video while we were doing it. You just take your PVC and you cut. It's super simple, okay? So that's one of my pieces. I got another piece over there, and I'm going to cut one more just for demonstration purposes. Probably going to regret this later because I'm cutting down the pipe, but I just wanted to. All right, that's that. Okay, so let's say this was what was in the ground. Let's say this piece was in the ground. This was the piece we had to cut out, right? So if it's just one little piece that you have to do, it's really simple. You just get one of these. It comes in 3 pieces and it's got 2 little gaskets, right? So it's really simple. Let's say this is your pipe in the ground or the house or whatever it is that you need to mend. You already cut out the damaged piece. You take the end cap. Don't mind this adhesive. The adhesive does not go on these pieces. This was a dummy piece, so it's for demonstrations only. So you take this end cap, slide it on, and then you slide the gasket on. Okay? You take the other end cap, wherever it is in the ground or in your house, you slide it on. It's fairly simple to do. Ours was in mud, as you saw kind of when I showed you earlier. You slide it on. It's obviously resistance because it's rubber on rubber. So what you're going to want to do now, part I left out, is in your pipe. Let's say this is the pipe. You're going to want to take this, set it there, and you're going to want to measure and just mark a line so you don't cut out too much. Better to cut out a little bit less than a little bit too much, because in the instance, let's say you only cut out this much, right? You see how this is bigger than this, but in the instance you only cut out that much, you can always get this, slide it on, because this is going to be pushed back enough to slide it over this piece. You see what I mean? I hope that made sense. Because if you cut too much, then you're going to end up doing what we did, and we had to get one of these little sleeves and cut an extra piece of pipe to fill the gap that we cut too much of, if that makes any sense at all. So ours really looked like this. We had to put this piece here, which is what we use the cement for. You know, you open it up, there's a little dauber in there, and you get the dauber and you wipe it around the edge and around the inside of the sleeve and around the outside of the actual pipe, and then you slide it in there, hold it. You want to hold it for like a good 30 seconds because the pressure of the adhesive and the pieces want to push apart, so you'll want to hold it in place. So we had to do that, which was way more messy because we had to do both sides and getting both sides on. Anyway, it was a whole ordeal. So essentially that's what we did. And then we put, well, I guess I could have did it this way. So we had to add one of these to add this extra length piece because we cut the gap way too big. Instead of being too short or perfect size, it was way too big. So we had to compensate and get a sleeve to add the extra length so we could do this properly. It's really important. The error that we made was we did not leave enough space between this and this piece for this to go on. I don't really know how else to explain that other than the side that this is going on has to be, I would say, at least 3 inches, because you want to give this space to move back. If you don't have at least 3 inches of room, you're going to run into the problem that we did and have to compensate and make more of a mess and problems. But anyway, so it's really simple. You have your caps and your gaskets on. You slide this piece in. It's really as simple. This is the pieces typically you're going to spin. Oh my gosh, my hands are cold and muddy. Okay, and then you already have it on like this, so it doesn't work very well when this piece isn't stable. And then you just slide this in. And what that does, let's see if I can show you here. So you got it on good and tight, and what that does, those rubber seals in there, they give it a nice good fit and nice good leak-proof solid seal. So, I mean, it really is a super simple fix if you go get one of these. But if you make the error, if you only have one little hole that is like we did, and you make the error of cutting the gap too big, then you're going to have to get into these sleeves and extra pipe for the extensions to actually get the piece done properly the way that we did. So I hope that helps somebody out there. It is definitely worth learning how to do yourself. It is definitely worth learning how to do yourself, because now I used to be like super intimidated anytime there was a leak, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, we got to call a plumber. Who's going to come out here? How are we going to do this? But if it's something simple like in the ground where the kids noticed the leak in the first place, or like puddling water, and then we went out and actually dug around to see where the problem areas were, it was really obvious once you got in there. So let me go over real quick and show you where we're at. Okay, so that big puddle right there is what I showed you earlier, were the pipes that we actually worked on. We went ahead and backfilled and covered this. It's really wet right now because I went ahead, I made sure that when we packed underneath that pipe for support, that it was really good and filled in, and all the air gaps were kind of like fused together for maximum support. And we also ended up putting a total of 5 like stones about that big in there, just to act as reinforcers and support. So just for minimal settling, so we don't run into the same problem that we did last time, which is where once we put the rest of this soil on top, it doesn't act as too much of a weight and weigh it down to where it's going to put too much pressure on the seal and cause it to leak. So definitely make sure that you support underneath properly. But this, we just went ahead and backfilled with some water, and we're going to let this sit overnight, check on it tomorrow. It's supposed to probably freeze tonight, but it's not that big of a deal because it's not like a deep freeze. We'll just cover this hole up with some cardboard, some straw, or whatever for insulation, and it'll be fine. Definitely a lesson learned, to make sure that you measure your cuts. It's properly supported when you backfill. We did give it the proper time initially, several days, to make sure that there weren't any leaks, but the problem was there was no weight under it and no weight on top of it, and it didn't even dawn on us to put pressure on it to make sure that the seals were proper. But now I guarantee you we will never forget again to do that extra step. And thank you so much for watching. Hope that was helpful to somebody. Just another day on, not even just the farm, that's just like everyday people problems when you're a homeowner, right? So thanks so much for watching. Little by little, it is chilly out here. I'm getting inside. Little by little equals a lot. Come back and see us next time. Thanks. Bye.